Hi, I'm Chrissy,
And I'm Jess.
and this is
Financial Progress. Welcome, welcome. Today we're diving into the debt snowball and debt avalanche methods and exploring how to celebrate small wins so they can supercharge your debt payoff journey.
how these can make a big difference in your financial journey. So, we're just going to discuss these two methods of paying off debt.
Yes, let's do this. So let's start off with the debt snowball method. This method is what I personally use for our financial journey. This approach involves paying off your debts from the smallest amount to the largest amount, meaning the smallest total due on your credit card. So this approach involves paying off your debts from the smallest balance to the largest balance, regardless of interest rate.
That's right. With the debt snowball, you can focus on tackling your smallest debt first while making minimum payments on all of your other debts.
And here's where the magic happens. As you pay off each small debt, you're experiencing little wins.
Exactly. And these little wins may seem insignificant at first, but they have a powerful impact on your motivation and your momentum to just keep going.
But Chrissy, why are these small wins so important when paying off debt?
Well, paying off debt can sometimes feel like an uphill battle, especially when you're facing large balances and high interest rates. But celebrating the small wins along the way can keep you motivated and energized.
That's absolutely true. One of the things that I did was have a visual and I put my smallest debt all the way to my biggest, whether it was credit cards, personal loans, or private loans. And it kept me motivated even to see it on the wall and noticing that I was like, yes, I paid that off. Yes, I paid that off. So always remember too that when you're paying your minimum payments to all your credit cards except the smallest one, when you pay that off, whatever amount you were paying to that bill is getting rolled over to the next one. So when you pay off that first small debt, whether it's the credit card or the small personal loan, it's that victory that you can see and feel at the same time.
Yes, definitely. And that feeling of accomplishment is incredibly motivating. And it shows that you're making progress, even if it's slow and steady.
So let's talk about that psychological impact of these small wins. How do they affect our mindset and behavior?
Well, small wins create a positive feedback loop in our brains. When we achieve a goal, no matter how small, our brains release dopamine, and that's a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward.
Oh, I like the sound of that. All right. That dopamine hit reinforces our behavior, is making us more likely to repeat it. So when you pay off that first small debt and experience that rush of accomplishment, you're more motivated to keep going.
Yes, it's like fuel for your financial journey. And those little wins keep you energized and focused on your ultimate goal of debt freedom. And it's like Jess mentioned, when you pay off that little balance and you can roll that into the next one, that's it keeps you motivated to just keep going. And then you just, when you pay off the next one and roll that payment into your debt repayment, it just energizes you. And you're like, oh, now I have much more that I can contribute towards my debt repayment and debt payoff. And it can be very motivating to keep going and tackle those little balances and just to roll those minimum payments into your larger balances. So by the time you get to the largest balance, you're throwing a ton of debt repayment back into them.
It's so exciting. So I do highly recommend to make sure that if while you're doing your debt payoff journey, that you do have a visual and any money that you have left over. So not just like that minimum payment for each debt, but let's say you have $200 left over from all your income minus your expenses, and you're putting that $200 to your smallest debt. That $200, once that small debt gets paid, it's going to get rolled over to the next one. And you're going to like feel that excitement when it gets paid that you're going to want to put more money into to that next one. You'll start finding money in places that you didn't even know, or things in the house to sell, or like a side hustle. And once all that money's there and you're attacking each debt, it just gets more exciting. You're going to love it. It's great. So, Chrissy, how can our listeners celebrate these small wins along their debt payoff journey?
Well, there are so many ways to celebrate small wins, and it's essential to find what works best for you. It could be something as simple as treating yourself to a nice meal or indulging in a favorite hobby or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But doing something to celebrate those small wins.
Hmm.
And like Jess mentioned, having that visual tracker to chart your progress and celebrate each milestone along the way is super important. So definitely that's something that we can do. How small brings you closer to your goal of debt freedom. So celebrate those victories no matter how insignificant they may seem.
It's you again.
Now let's talk about the debt avalanche method. So I used both the debt avalanche method and the debt snowball method when I was getting out of debt. And I first started with the debt snowball and then I moved to debt avalanche. So I ended up paying off like all my credit cards first because of those high interest rates. Didn't want to leave them because they had higher balances. So I didn't want to leave them for the last debt repayment because of how much interest I was paying on them. So definitely do what works best for you. Analyze these two methods, but we're just going to talk a little bit about the debt avalanche method now. So unlike the debt snowball, which focuses on paying off debts from smallest to largest, the debt avalanche method prioritizes debts based on interest rate from highest to lowest.
That's right. So with the debt avalanche, you tackle the debt with the highest interest rate first while making the minimum payments on all the other debts.
And here's the key difference. So the debt avalanche method is all about minimizing the total amount of interest you pay over time, which can save a significant amount of money in the long run.
Why do financial experts often recommend the debt avalanche method over the debt snowball?
Well, the debt avalanche method is all about maximizing your financial efficiency. By focusing on high interest rate debts first, you're tackling the most costly debts up front, which can save you a substantial amount of money on interest over time.
Okay, so while the debt snowball method may provide emotional wins by paying off the smaller debts quickly, the debt avalanche method is more about the long term financial benefits.
And for many people, saving money on interest and paying off debts as efficiently as possible is the ultimate goal.
Some might worry that the debt avalanche method lacks the emotional motivation of the debt snowball. How do you stay motivated when focusing on high interest debts?
And that's a great question. I also use visuals when paying off debt. So even though I was doing it out of the order of what's suggested by Debt Snowball, I still had that visual representation to keep me motivated. And while the Debt Avalanche method may not provide the same emotional highs as a Debt Snowball, there are still so many ways to stay motivated.
So, what is a method that you did to stay motivated while doing the debt avalanche?
So I did a mixture of the two. So
Mhm.
just having that visual was super important for me,
Okay.
and just showing that there was progress being made no matter what method I chose.
Mhm. Okay, so one approach is to visualize the long term benefits of paying off high interest debts first. Imagine how much money you'll save on interest and how much faster you'll achieve debt freedom.
And don't forget to celebrate milestones along the way, even though you're not paying off debts in order of size. Each high interest debt paid off is a significant achievement worth celebrating.
How can our listeners make the debt avalanche method work for them?
Well, it starts with understanding your debts and their respective interest rates. Create a list of all your debts, including balances and interest rates, so you can prioritize them effectively.
Okay. So, and then you would want to develop a repayment plan that allocates extra funds towards that debt with a high interest rate while making minimum payments on all other debts. So that's kind of like what I said earlier with the debt snowball. If you have extra money left over, you're going to attack your smallest debt with it. You're going to do the same thing if you have extra money left over. You're just going to attack your credit card or any debt with the highest interest rate.
And remember, consistency is the key. So stick to your plan and watch as your high interest debts disappear one by one. And you can use both these methods or you can use one over the other. If you feel like you start with the debt snowball and then switch to the debt avalanche, and then you feel like, wait, I need a win because I feel like it's taken forever to knock out one of these larger debts, then switch back to the debt snowball method to get one of those smaller balances paid off. There's no wrong way of doing this. It's just having a plan and actually being able to stick to your plan. And we both did different methods, but they both work for us. So definitely do what works best for you in your current situation. If you don't have any extra money to put towards any of your debts, starting with the debt snowball might be the best for you, because once you knock out that small balance, you can roll that minimum payment into the next one. It can start rolling in a powerful direction, building up until that last debt is paid off. So definitely find what works best for you and what keeps you motivated and do that.
The only thing I would add to is just not add, but to reinforce is to make sure that you do have some type of like a debt thermometer on somewhere where you would see it every day to keep you motivated, because that's what helps. I had mine on the side of my wall. Chrissy had hers on her refrigerator. So when every time she went in the refrigerator, it was there, and it would definitely help you. And the moment that you start like highlighting or like marker like your snowball going up, is the more motivation that you will get through the process of your financial journey.
Oh, and yes, and I just wanted to add that while you're making minimum payments on all your other balances, that's principal and interest that you're paying. So you're also tackling those without even like realizing it, because each of those balances is decreasing as you keep going. So how I would track it is at the end of the month, I would go into all my accounts and see what the balances were. And this is after I made my large repayment. I would go in to see what all my balances were and I would write them down. And then I would fill in the gap of how much I paid off that month for the principal. So that's how I would fill in my thermometer every month. So do what works best for you, but definitely that visual representation is what will keep you motivated to keep going, because you see the progress that's being made.
Yes. But that wraps up our discussion on the debt snowball versus the debt avalanche methods. No way is right or wrong, whatever fits best for your situation.
Yes. And remember, the most important thing is to take action and start tackling your debts. Whether you choose the debt snowball or the debt avalanche method, the key is to stay committed and focused on your financial goals.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.